Good day to all of us, everyone. So our next topic is about the forms of popular culture. So our topic, the first grading, where we have the different theories, di ba, on popular culture, kailan to nag-start, and I think our first topic on the midterms is the colonial history of Philippine popular culture in the Philippines. And our next topic for now is we have the forms of popular culture. Before we proceed with the different forms, ano ba ang forms ng popular culture? We have a lot of forms of popular culture. And examples of those are yung mga yan, music, television, pwedeng fashion din yan, cyber culture as well, and we have a lot that I'll be discussing for the midterms. And I will only try to discuss 10 out of we have I think we have 20 to 30 types of or forms of popular culture. When you say forms of popular culture, it pertains on how a certain culture is being popularized, or what is a medium, use, or type wherein a certain culture, a certain belief, or a certain tradition that was created by people or a certain people, which culture or belief became popularized. So what we have a lot, di ba? We have discussed on how cultures are created, on how cultures are becoming popular with the use of social media. Pero ano yung mga forms nito? Like for example, music, di ba? Of course, we all know that we have different types of music coming from the classic, from rock, country, and so on and so forth. Now, on this topic that I'll be discussing, supposed to be these midterm topics, which are the forms of popular culture, supposed to be reported by the students. So yun sana dapat ang original plan on the syllabus on the midterms. However, because of this pandemic, kailangan din kasi ng reporting yan actually, especially when you are on the first year. You really need to report kasi nga it is to hone you in order for you to be practice in public speaking. However, ganito naman ang nangyari sa atin. I cannot require everyone to have their own group reporting, considering that I'll be grouping the class, and then magkakaproblema pa kayo on how are you going to communicate with the members of the group, di ba? So that is why mangyayari na lang. So lahat ng lectures will come from me. Even siguro sa finals, ganun na rin. Supposed to be for finals, the original plan there, if we have a normal class, not a online class, I mean, magkakandak kayo ng popular games. So, ganun sana dapat ang original plan. However, ganito nga ang nangyari. So, the lecture will come from me, and traditional way of our giving a lecture, di ba, ng lesson natin, we'll be giving the lecture, we will have a quiz regarding the lecture, and so on and so forth. So, medyo nalilimit ang ating activities and participation or different forms of giving the lessons. Like for example, yung reporting na yan, recitation, and so on and so forth, because of these online classes natin. Pero wala na, nandito na nga tayo, di ba? So, continue ko na. So, our first form of popular culture here is about music. So, here, I will be discussing some definition of music, and then what are the prehistorical of music or history ng music natin. I will not try to go deeper each form. So, lahat ng papakita ko sa inyo would be a parang pahapyaw lang. Kasi if we try to go on the history, on the concept of music, kung ano yung mga bagay-bagay na sa music, actually, hindi magkakasya tong one sem. Di ba? Actually, music nga is a course to eh. It is being provided by the Stella or School of Teacher Education Liberal Arts, yung BA Music natin. So, bachelor's degree yan ng music natin. So, gagawin ko lang yung music here. I will try to give a brief history. What are the things to be discussed in music that is in line on popular culture? Like, for example, what are the different events, important events, or mga big events na ginaganap sa buong mundo? in the different parts of the world. So here, I will also try to give some examples. What are the important events in regards to music that are occurring in the Philippines as well as in the different countries. So the last part of every form, may magkakaroon ng compare and contrast regarding the music here in the Philippines and then the music on the different parts or in the different countries, di ba? So yun ang mangyayari sa atin. So history, short history of music, what are the different events that are being practiced in music? Kasi nga that is very important in popular culture, di ba? Those important events are the one who creates this popular culture. Because of those events, nagkakaroon tayo ng isang culture or isang music that will become popular maybe in the future, 'di ba? Like for example, an artist, 'di ba? Nung una hindi naman siya sikat. However, because of different important events like for example concerts, 'di ba? Mga gigs, dun siya sumikat. The same with popular culture, 'di ba? Hindi naman biglang sisikat ang isang music na yung artist ay biglaan lang na gumawa ng isang music. However, kailangan niyang he needs to participate in different important events in order to gather people and then so that people will be introduced to the song that he had created, 'di ba? So parang ganun siya. So now let's move on. Oops. Okay. So definition muna ng music. When you say music, it's very simple definition lang tayo. It is about the collection of coordinated sounds, di ba? Everyone naman knows about music as long as that there is the rhythm, it involves the combination of the pitch, melody, rhythm, harmony, and then texture, di ba? It is the process of combining sounds and then tones. Hindi ko ituturo sa inyo kung yung mga notes kasi sabi ko nga pahapyaw lang. When you say music, very simple. It is something that you try to hear on the radio, kung ano yung nakalagay sa billboard natin. So we have different kinds of music, di ba? We have some mga rock and roll. Sabi nila, according to the history of music, the first genre of music daw started with country ata. After country, it became rock. And then from rock, parang dun na naghahalo ang mga yung R&B natin. Medyo huli na kasi yung R&B and then hip-hop na music. However, when you say music, very simple. It is something that you try to hear. It is created by composers. So, pwedeng it is a song without a instruments being used, di ba? Ang ginagamit lang nila would be their own voice or they are trying to imitate some of the sounds of instruments. And I think they call that one as a cappella naman, di ba? And then we have as well different bands. When you say bands, these are yung mga members nila are holding some positions like for example vocalists and then guitars, bass, drums, and so on and so forth. And then ano pa ba for I think we have another different type of music again na yung may kanta na, may beat pa, and then may sayaw pa, di ba? As well, that is music din. More on visual din sila. Like for example, yung mga pinapanood yung ng mga K-pop bands, di ba? Mga pinakasikat ata na sinasabi nila sa BTS. So for girls, I think they are known as yung mga K-pop nyo is we have the Blackpink and then yung mga Momoland, di ba? So those are different examples wherein music could be portrayed to the people. So I will not anymore try to elaborate what is music. I think everyone naman knows about music. So now let's move on the history of music. So according here, for the history of music, it was first invented in Africa. On part of that Africa, malawak ang Africa natin na baka sabihin nyo sa Africa lang. We all know that it all started in Africa, specifically in Egypt yan. Kasi nga, based on our own world history, the most or the first civilized men in the globe were the Egyptians daw. Okay? Yeah, tama nga naman sila kasi if you try to look on the history of Egyptian or if you try to look or observe the different materials used by Egyptians, yes, you could consider them as the first civilized men. Kasi sila yung mga nakita mo, di ba? First of all, you could see the Pyramid of Giza or the different great pyramids there. And by creating those pyramids, it's not that simple to create those pyramids. You need an architect and then civil engineer. And remember, during those times, walang formal education during those times. So, ang education nila, siguro mayroong isang teacher na who would try to share his own knowledge about engineering, and then yun lang. And if you try to look then and observe on that Great Pyramid of Giza, the shape is very symmetrical, or not symmetrical, very engineered down. Okay? However, they do not have the right tools on using on that one. Like for example, yung mga engineers natin ngayon, di ba? May mga tools naman kayo, yung mga parang telescope type, wherein you could see the angle, you could see kung banking ba or straight ba. Pero sila during those times, wala. However, when they have created those pyramids, based on the angles, it's perfect. Halos maganda lahat, in other words. Yan. So it was first invented in Africa, specifically in Egypt. And earliest form of music is about clapping. Yes, of course, with the use of our body, diba? And then clapping, and then snapping of fingers, and then drum bass, percussion instruments with the use of racks. So yun ang mga pinakauna na that they have used in terms of music. Remember, during the Stone Age, the people are creating their own tools with the use of racks. So, ang ginagamit nila would be ginagamit nila yung mga racks, and then they're trying to shape the racks into sharp edges in order for them to hunt. So, siguro, it rooted from there, wherein they're using the stones for drumming, di ba? For snapping of the fingers. So, with the use of the bodies, with the use of the stones, they have created some earliest type of music. And yan, mostly used in churches. When you say churches, it does not only pertain on Roman Catholicism. Well, of course, Roman Catholicism only started on, we have, matagal na rin, Roman Catholicism is, I think, it started from Rome on the 13th century, di ba? And then after that one, doon na nagkaroon ng mga Protestant and so on and so forth. However, in here, of course, as part of music, in different churches, they're using music. Of course, Roman Catholic, nandiyan na rin yan. And then almost all of the religion, if I'm not mistaken, that they're using music. Roman Catholic, kumakanta sila, di ba? Protestant churches, like for example, Lutheran Church, mga Pentecostal, the Seventh Day of Adventists, they are still using singing, di ba? Halos lahat naman ata. I do not know kung walang church or walang religion who are not using music, di ba? So all of them are using music. Okay? Oh, yan. So here are some of the pictures of some of the earliest instruments that are being used, diba? So noon, sabi natin, it all started on clapping and then flipping of and fingers, I mean, diba? Snapping of fingers, and then with the use of the racks, all of those things. So of course, as time passed by, they have created some instrument that will create different kinds of sounds, di ba? Pag drum yan, it could create a certain beat. Pag string naman, it could make some pitches, or parang, alam mo na, yung mga sounds ng strings. And then, yung mga yan, trumpet or different flute. Well, of course, when you say flute, you're using air in order for you to create a sound. So from the history of music, you could try to look or observe that music is somewhat evolving from the earliest use of music with the use of uh, the body, di ba? Clapping and then snapping of fingers until such time gumamit ng stones. And then until such time again, it is evolving, and then yun. We have created some different types of music. We have the vocal or the a cappella, I mean. And then yun na rin, we have the use of guitars and different kinds of instruments na harp, lyre, and then clarinets. Ang dami na nating different kinds of instruments that are being used until now. And for now, 'di ba? Actually nga ang music natin ngayon is kadamihan na, if that is a concert, it is more on electric, meron pang digital music. Wherein when you say digital music, pinipindot mo lang yung isang button and then that button, naka-program on that button to have different kinds of sounds. It could be guitar, piano, flute kung gusto mo, drum kung pwede. So from that digital na parang box na yan or parang ginagamit ng DJ ng mga yan, they have create now some different kinds of music even though they're not using the real instrument, 'di ba? So medyo advanced na talaga ang music ngayon. However, of course, all of those songs came from original kind of instrument. So siguro naman you could differentiate the sound of a drum from the sound of a guitar, 'di ba? All of those things. Now, next on the history now in the Philippines, I will not anymore try to discuss all. However, here in the Philippines, it includes musical performance arts in the Philippines. So, madami tayong mga different important events na papakita ko rin mamaya regarding musical performances or mga OPMs natin, or original Pinoy music. Philippines composed in various genres and style. Yes, of course. Even though it is known as OPM or original Pinoy music, they have their own genres from what I have told everyone that of course we have rock, we have country, we have R&B, we have ballad, di ba? We have classic, we have folk. When you say folk, pwede yung mga kundiman, di ba? Some of the songs na somewhat traditional and part of the culture. So we have a lot, even though kasi nga OPM is a generic term on the kind of music being created by Filipinos. So, as long as it is created by Filipino, regardless of the genre, that is an OPM. Kasi yung iba naman, they believe that when you say OPM, ito yung mga songs like for example, mga kinanta ng mga Eraserheads, kinanta ng mga tawag ito, mga River Maya. So yung mga yon nila Bamboo, nila Sarah Geronimo. So as long as it was created by those kind of persons or yung mga sikat na tao, OPM yon. And then yung ang sa tingin nila yung mga folk songs natin, like for example, Kundiman, hindi daw OPM. So yun ang kala nila. However, when you say OPM, from the word itself, OPM, as long as it was created by Filipino, and it is regardless of the genre, OPM siya. Diba? So the composition are often a mixture of different Asian, Spanish, Latin American, and indigenous influences. So here, when you say composition, I'm sorry, wrong spelling. Okay, so, well, of course naman, if we try to look on the history of the Philippines, we were conquered with the different cultures, di ba? Different colonizers coming from the Spaniards, Asian. When sa Asian, kadamihan din before the coming of the Spaniards, the pre-colonial history of the Philippines, di ba? Madami nang bumibisitang mga Chinese, Malaysians, 'di ba? So for the Spanish, we adapted the use of the guitar. So the Mexican guitar, all of those things. Latin American, when you say Latin American, kadamihan din naman ng Latin American na influences came from Spaniards and then Portugal. And then the indigenous influences, of course, it is very original naman na yan sa ating indigenous peoples. Like for example, yan, the people of the Igorots or the Mangyans, pwede rin sila, the Aita, and so on and so forth. So what I'm telling here for the Philippines, we have different types of genres. And sabi ko nga, as long as whatever genre is that, and that is a music, there is a rhythm, there is a tone, whatsoever, all those kinds of elements in music. And yeah, that is a OPM. Okay, original Pinoy music. Now, so tingnan naman natin are the different examples or important events here in the Philippines. Kasi nga, di ba sabi natin, when you say important events, it is where some of the music are being popularized to the public, not only here in the Philippines, as well as in the whole world, di ba? Di ba? Na meron namang mga music tayo na which are being used or being listened by different kinds of people, not only Filipinos, yung iba Americans, yung ibang Europeans. Very good example of that is yung Anak, di ba? Anak is a song composed by Freddie Aguilar. I think that was, I composed that one on late 90s ata, or basta 90s yan, or 20, or early 2000. I cannot remember kung kailan kinompose yan. However, that Anak was very popularized here in the Philippines. I do not know kung alam niyo yung kantang yung Anak na yun. However, if you try siguro to ask some of your parents, of course, or mga aunties mo, or mga kuya or ate mo, they would know about that song. And that song did not only become popular here in the Philippines, but it became popular internationally. So ang ginawa nila, because of how good the message of that Anak, they have created different language. Okay, so yung pitch and then the song is still the same, the message is still the same. Ang ginawa nila, it was translated on different kinds of languages. Like for example, it was translated into Spanish in order for the Spaniards or the Spanish people to listen about the content of the Anak. And then na ano rin siya, naging English din siya, naging tawag dito, naging French din siya. So madaming language, even Japanese, it was translated into Japanese. So yun, 'di ba? Yun ang mga examples natin wherein pwede pala tayong mag-popularize ng isang OPM to an international context, 'di ba? Pero iilan lang ang medyo ganung mga scenario wherein OPMs are becoming popular not only here in the Philippines but internationally. So, indigenous music, it is a notable folk song. Composers include the national artists of music, Lucio, and then San Pedro. Yan. So here in indigenous music, we have some events na or mga tawag nito, events or some of organized seminars wherein showcase nila yung mga indigenous music natin. Minsan, it is conducted by the NCIP. If you know about NCIP, the National Commission on National Commission on Indigenous People. So sometimes they are conducting some showcases or mga events wherein different indigenous people are being invited for them to showcase their own uniqueness. And as part of their culture is they're practicing music. Kasi yung iba, di ba? Like for example, here in Cordillera, ano yung mga music natin? Here in the Benguet and then Benguet Mountain Province, they're using different kinds of music. Like for example, they're using the ganza, di ba? They're using the sulibaw, and so on and so forth. And then as part of their own music, pag may ganung mga music, yan, sumasayaw din sila ng mga tayaw. And then, of course, when you say tayaw here, they are trying to go on the beat of gangsa and then the sulibaw. Di ba? And of course, ano pang mga different kinds. Okay, before we go on the important events, I'm only giving some examples of different kinds of music here in the Philippines. And then, of course, harana. Uso naman sa atin siguro yan lahat, di ba? Alam naman natin kung ano ibig sabihin ng harana, mas especially for the boys, di ba? Noon, uso ang harana. I do not know kung uso pa ba ang harana ngayon. Kasi parang ngayon daw, with this social media, text na lang, and then kayo na. However, during the times of our lolas and lolas, talagang uso ang pamamanihikan ng isang lalaki sa isang babae. Of course, the original form of serenading or pamamanihikan ng lalaki is to give harana. Diba? However, pag minsan hindi talaga ganun kagaling si lalaki na kumanta, they're trying to invite his friends who are good in siguro playing in guitar and then singing for a song or singing a love song, all of those things. Well, of course, when say harana, it is a serenade tradition in rural areas of the Philippines in which young men are formally to meet their single lady visitors. And of course, it is very obvious naman if a man tries to harana or serenade a certain girl, it is showing his own affection to the girl, that the girl that he has feelings for the girl and so on and so forth. So, 'di ba? So, 'yun, isang kind of traditional music pa rin natin. When you say harana, kadamihan kasi ng harana hindi pa kasi uso noon yung popularity of different music. Like for example, even though we have Elvis Presley, the Beatles, meron ng radyo during those times. However, some of Arana, they're not using the lyrics or the songs na mga ginagamit ng The Beatles, Elvis Presley, di ba? So hindi na ginagamit yung mga songs na yun para iharana. For your information, kadamihan kasi ng harana, some of those, hindi naman lahat kadamihan lang, some of the lyrics of those sarana were originally created by the boy or by the young man who will be serenading the girl. Kasi nga, 'di ba, even though you try to borrow some of the songs, minsan kasi yung message na nakalagay sa song na yon is somewhat different on the message that you would like to give to the girl or to the woman. So, ang ginagawa nila, they still try to create their own lyrics of harana. Even minsan ang binabaro lang nila would be the tawag nito, yung mga parang yung pitch or paano kinanta yung isang kanta, 'di ba? And then paano 'to ginitara, ano yung mga chords niya, ano yung tune, I mean, what is the tune of the song, and then gagawin nila, papalitan lang nila yung lyrics. And of course, the lyrics would be created pag if you're in Ilocos, gagawin nilang Ilocano yung lyrics nila. Of course, depende na yan kung anong diskarte ng lalaki. However, kadamihan kasi ng harana noon, original yan. Kung Katagalugan, of course, Tagalog ang gagawin ng lalaki naman. Okay? So next here is we have the kundiman. It is a genre of traditional Filipino love song. Yes, of course. When say kundiman, pwede rin kasi ginagamit yan as a harana. Yun. Okay, so the connection now here of Harana and then Kundiman is that some of the boys or the young men who are creating some love songs for their loved ones or mga liniligawan pa lang ng mga babae. And yan, minsan it is recorded and it is being listened now by his friends, and then until such time, let us say, parang naikalat na to or sumikat ang harana na isang ginawa ng isang young man, and it becomes kundiman, di ba? Kasi nga yan, it is a love song, but kundiman does not only it is not only limited for harana. Baka sabihin nyo lahat ng harana kundiman na. Hindi naman. Ang kundiman, pwede rin niyang ginawa ng isang tao. It pertains about love or it pertains about broken-hearted, all of those things. Pero kadamihan, when I say kundiman, it is more on the positive way of love. Wherein you try to appreciate love, all of those things. So yun ang kundiman natin. And then when say gong music, it is the use of a gong, large percussion instrument that you play by hitting it with a mallet. Gongs make a resonant, echoing sound. So very good example of ng gong natin is yan. Sabi ko nga kanina, here in Cordillera, especially here in Benguet and Mountain Province, we're using the gansa. Diba? And then if you try to buy a gansa, medyo mahal ang gansa eh. Diba? Tanso yan. And then minsan mahirap talaga na gawin yan. Kasi nga, it's not all about trying to create that gangsa. However, you need to get the right sound of gangsa. Kasi minsan, hindi talaga nila bibilihin yang gangsa mo kung it does not produce a sound that they would like to produce. Diba? So, yun ang ibig kong sabihin sa gong music natin. And then, of course, last but not the least, sinasabi ko kanina, original Filipino music or OPM, originally referred only to Philippines pop songs, particularly ballads such as those popular after the collapse of predecessors, the Manila sound of the late 1970s. So yun nga, yung sinasabi ko kanina, kadamihan ng may mga alam when you say OPM, ito yung mga old music natin, especially that were popularized in Manila. Yung mga kinakanta ng Eraserheads, di ba? Ano pa ba yung mga rockstar, sila April Boy, yung mga classic na yan. So, people believe that when you say OPM, it is only limited with those artists or limited with those different bands who became popular during their times, especially in Manila, kung of course kung saan yung capital natin. However, when you say OPM, it includes everything na as long as the song or the music was created by Filipino, whatever genre it is, whenever, whatever ano man yan, like for example, indigenous music man yan, the use of ganza, the use, all of those things, still that is an OPM, as long as it is composed originally by a Filipino. Kasi ang iba kasi, ang ibang Filipino, kadamihan na ginagawa nila, even here in Cordillera, iba, may isang kanta or international na or foreign song wherein they adapted the tune of the song. Ang ginawa lang nila, pinalitan yung lyrics. Is that an OPM? Answer is no. When you say OPM here, it's not all about the originality of the lyrics. However, it is as well the originality of the tune or the sound na ginagamit sa isang music na yan. Kasi nga, of course, ang music naman natin is not all about lyrics, di ba? It concerns about the rhythm. It concerns on the pitch, di ba? All of those things. Anong mga chords ang gamit mo, gaano kabilis to. So, yan ang OPM natin. Kaya nga, originally Filipino music, hindi naman originally Filipino lyrics, di ba? So, when you say music here, it does not only pertain on the lyrics. So, yan ang OPM natin. Okay? Okay, so next year naman is we try to look naman on the music of different countries naman. Okay, so una dito is we have South Korea. So for the history of South Korea, most of their music were influenced from China. So yan, music was mostly inspired by Chinese, traditional, and then religion. Well, of course, geographically speaking, uh, the location of South Korea together with China is malapit lang. And noon nga, during our pre-colonial history, di ba, nakakaabot ang mga Chinese dito sa ating bansa. Paano pa kayo sa South Korea na pagkalapit-lapit lang sa kanila? Okay, so there are two main categories here of music in South Korea. Yung mga traditional music nila. It is known as Chongak, or it is the upper class or the classical music. And an example of that one is the Yongsan Hoisang, or a mass on spiritual mountain. And then next example here is we have the Sagak, or common classes or folk music, more on energetic. Example of these are shaman, ritual music, a collection of lively, mythical music played during the rituals. Now, if you try to compare the two categories here of music in South Korea, hindi to ngayon na I'm pertaining about, these are the folk music. Well, of course, we cannot deny the fact pa rin that during their times, may classification pa rin ng ating mga average people or sila yung mga proletariat according to Karl Marx nga, di ba? And then we have the bourgeoisie, sila yung mga upper class natin. So, kadamihan ng mga music that are being listened by the average people, of course, is known as sogak. When you say sogak, it is popularized on the base level of the society, wherein of course naman mas madami ang mga tao sa proletariat compared to bourgeoisie, mas madami ang lower class or mga common classes compared to the upper class. So mas madaming tao ang nakikinig sa isang music in the lower class of the society, 'di ba? However, iba rin kasing music ng mga upper class natin even until today, 'di ba? If you try to compare, yung mga upper class natin, they're listening into classical music. If you could still remember my own discussion, my own discussion in Karl Marx, di ba? That I for Adorno, wherein Adorno explained that the common class are very dumb, di ba? So bobo daw sila kasi nga what they only know is to follow what is popular. what is the trend. So pag yan ang trending, yan ang papakinggan natin. However, for the bourgeoisie or the upper class, they know what is the true art. Kaya nga hindi daw sila dumb, 'di ba? Hindi sila bobo. Kasi nga even though there is a popular music coming in again in the society, it does not mean that they are going to listen or they're going to be attached on that music. Kasi nga, popular lang yan. Pero talaga ba na it is a true art? All of those things. So the same with South Korea during those times, during their prehistoric period. Wherein, pag itong music na to, it was created for, it is a true art being listened by the upper classes, and it is known as Chongak. And then, if the music naman was commonly listened by the common people, it's known as Sogak. Yan nga. And more energetic din siya, ang Sogak compared to Chongak. Compare mo until today, di ba? If you try to compare the music of a classic music being heard by the upper classes, parang melancholic siya, di ba? When say melancholic, it is somewhat a parang sad song. The beat is not that fast, di ba? However, when you try to listen naman with the common music that we have here, like for example, yung mga mataas yung beat, mabibilis yung mga beat, di ba? That are being popularized. So parang history repeats itself, di ba? So parang ganun din yung history natin ngayon sa music at ganun din nung noon. Now, here, let's try to look on different important events ng South Korean music. Well, of course, ang pinaka-popular sa kanila that we know is we have the K-pop, di ba? Even Filipinos are very aware of the K-pop, di ba? I do not know, but for me, I am not a fan of K-pop. Maybe some of you are fan of K-pop. Hindi ko naman sinasabi na why not try to patronize OPM. However, ikaw naman yan or kayo naman yan, well, it's your freedom to choose whatever you would like. And K-pop is a musical genre consists of dance, electronic, electropop, hip-hop, rock, and R&B music. It all started in 1992, sung by teenage singers. Well, of course, when you say K-pop here, parang ano yan two in one, di ba? Hindi lang to kanta, hindi lang yan dance, kundi it is a combination of two. So para siyang full entertainment. 'Di ba? When you try to go with the concerts of some of your favorite artists, favorite bands, kunyari Beatles 'yan, kunyari or mga Eraserheads 'yan ang pag pumunta ka doon, isang concert na 'yan, ang nakikita mo lang would be 'yun, kumakanta lang sila, and so on and so forth. And then pag minsan naman, kung meron isang hip-hop competition, it is an event, dance lang siya, 'di ba? However, here in K-pop, they are more on singing and dancing. That made them popular not only here, not only there in Korea and in the Philippines, but parang international ano na 'yan, 'di ba? If you try to observe the different concerts of 'yan, mga Blackpink natin, one of the most popular or famous K-pop band in Korea. We have the Blackpink for your girls, and I think sa boys naman is we have yung mga BTS natin. So, hindi ko alam ang history nila. However, yan ang mga some of important events or things na pinakasikat sa K-pop natin. Okay? Okay, so next natin naman is we have Japan. So we're not done with South Korea. So for Japan then, remember, based on geographical position, medyo malapit din sila sa China natin. Of course, medyo katapat lang nila ang Russia. However, some of their music were as well influenced by the Chinese people. Of course, with the use of Buddhism, di ba? On how they are trying to give musical instrument or musical songs created for Buddha, di ba? So here, Japanese gagaku, mamaya explain natin kung ano yung gagaku. For Japanese Imperial Court of Music, this centuries-old music was born from emerging cultures. Yes, of course. Japanese kasi is as well the music of Japanese is a combination of different genres of music. Of course, sabi ko nga, they were hindi naman colonized. Some of their music were being influenced by China. And not only in China, they have their own originality then. However, yan, because of the influence of Chinese people, uh, some of their traditional music known for Gagaku is in line with the song to be created for Buddha, di ba? Yan, Gagaku is the oldest form of classical music in Japan. Yan, from the picture, nakita nyo kung anong ginagawa nila. So those are some of their own traditional instruments for Gagaku. What is good for Japan? Even though they have some traditional musics, it is not being forgotten by the current people for now. Some of them are still practicing these instruments. Of course, ganyan kasi mga Japanese natin. They know how to remember their own history. They know how to look on their own culture, on how to preserve their own culture. Yan ang somewhat unique to Japan compared not only here in the Philippines but as well as to the globe. Yung iba kasi 'di ba na madaming mga cultures na nakakalimutan natin until such time na naging obsolete na ito, wala nang may alam na may ganito palang culture before. However, for Japan, 'di ba? They're trying to preserve their own culture as part of that one. Yeah, they're practicing some of the gagaku, the oldest music of Japan. Okay, so it was brought to the islands among with Buddhism. Of course, it came from China yan, and thrived in the imperial courts from the 700s. The principal role of gagaku is to accompany the rituals and actions of the emperor and the imperial family. So yeah, originally, when you say gagaku here kasi, some of the music being created during those times. Of course, alam naman natin ang Japan, it is a monarchical. When you say monarchical, may mga emperors tayo, 'di ba? Or we have a imperial family. The same with pag UK, pag meron silang royal family, meron ding imperial family. When you say imperial family, these are the family who are ruling on the different aspects of the society. So they are the ones who are creating the laws of the society, maintaining peace and order, and so on and so forth. And of course, parang uh, sila yung government during their time. And as the government or as the imperial family, of course, they're living with luxury yung mga yan. And some of the members or some of those emperors are requesting some artists in music to compose different songs. So, madaming songs that they have requested that are created by these people. However, kasi madami ring nawalang mga gagaku songs or mga gagaku music kasi nga unlike before on how they compose a certain song is not about hindi pa kasi uso ang nota-nota nun eh. 'Di ba? Hindi uso yung mga chord. Well, of course, the music that was created by a certain artist is originally known by him. Maybe sinulat niya isang papel. However, that paper is only readable or ang nakakabasa lang sa papel na yan would be the artist itself. However, pag namatay na siya, the artist died and then the next generation would like to play the composition of that artist, the problem now there is hindi nila masundan. Kaya kadamihan ng ating gagaku music were originally created. However, it was not preserved. 'Di ba? Yan, yung mga, so yung mga gagaku songs natin, meron naman iba na naalala ko kung paano i-play itong mga to. However, for the originality of those music or composition, hindi na siya ganun ka-original. Kasi nga, yun yung sabi natin, ang hirap i-record. Wala naman silang audio recorder during those times, di ba? And then next, this music was never intended to be heard by the general public. It has been the imperial family throughout its own history. Yes, di ba? When say imperial family nga, they are living with luxury. So therefore, Kung kumakain sila, some of these artists are playing those songs, 'di ba? And of course, as an artist, minsan you must have your own compositions. Medyo madami-dami ka dapat compositions when you are invited by the emperor. Kasi nga, minsan you need to play for them. Like for example, it's special events, if that is a wedding. And minsan, pag kumakain sila, so you're invited. Or minsan din, some of the emperors are requesting a song na, can you create a song that is pertains about happiness or mabilis yung beat natin? Or can you create a song that are somewhat portrays sadness, all of those things. Okay? So, we're done with the traditional naman. Now, let's move on sa mga 1990s na mga Japanese pop music, commonly referred as a J-pop. 'Di ba? So, the same with Korean, may K-pop sila, may J-pop din. However, talagang mas sikat lang talaga yung K-pop compared with J-pop. And of course, as a J-pop, Japanese popular music, a term coined by Komuro Tetsuya, the father of J-pop in the early 1990s. Remember, K-pop, Korean pop music started in 1992. Halos magkasabay lang din naman sila for J-pop. It was first limited to Eurobeat, the kind of dance music that Komoro produced. However, it was later also applied for many other kinds of popular music in the Japanese music chart, like for example, Oricon, including idol pop, rhythm and blues, folk, soft rock, and so on and so forth. So if you try to compare J-pop from K-pop, it's like the same lang then. So they're composing their own music that is high beat. When you say high beat, medyo mabilis yung beat nila. Kasi nga, ah, tawag ito, kasi nga yung high beat na yun, it pertains on happiness, 'di ba? Hindi sila more on yung parang love song kasi nga they are the main purpose of their music is for entertainment, meaning to entertain the public or the people, 'di ba? Kaya nga sumasayaw sila and then kumakanta sila at the same time. So as part of the essence, the similarity of Japanese and then Korean pop music are for them to entertain and yan, to create some music that is more on R&B or hip hop, 'di ba? Siguro may mga gitara sila pero parang iilan. More on beat sila eh, 'di ba? They want to dance with the people. They would like to entertain the people. And then J-pop has been one of the fastest growing influential music, forces since the 1990s. Warmly embraced by young people in Taiwan, Hong Kong, mainland China, South Korea, Singapore, Thailand, and Malaysia. So kadamihan ng mga customers nila or ng mga followers nila, of course, it all started with ASEAN or yan, or East Asian. We have the Japan, South Korea, until such time na kumalat na ito together with Europe and then America. However, talagang mas sikat lang si K-pop compared with J-pop. And then Asian companies and artists are learning from Japan about different aspects of music production and marketing, such as music composition, MV, stage design, sound effect, costumes, makeup, dance, and so on and so forth. Now, Japan is well known for creating different technologies, di ba? They are good on making robots, making mga car manufacturers, like for example, yung mga Toyota. So they are well known in terms of technology and robotics. So as part of that one, they're also good on digital music. Sabi natin, what say digital music? Ito yung mga technology wherein it could create sounds, even though you're using a certain button lang, it could create different sounds. So you different beats are being, di ba? When you try to hear some beats, there are parang daming mga kinds of beats, di ba? Na pwedeng ihalo sa kanta. So the same with Japan. They are good on making some technologies wherein some of those technologies or mga digital music could create different kinds of beats. And that is why, ang pinagkaiba kasi na sa J-pop, sa K-pop, K-pop, Korean popular culture are somewhat adapting some of the technologies being used by J-pop. Diba? So, yung mga beats nila, different kinds of beats nila, nanggagaling sa technology ng Japan. Kasi nga, alam naman natin, ang Japan talagang magaling in terms of creating their own technology. So, mga different sound effects na composition, yun naman ang maganda sa Japan. In terms of sound effects, composition, quality-based talaga siya. Okay? So, yan ang J-pop naman. Next here is, uso rin ito. If you are aware of this one, the anime music. So, lahat ata ng anime, or when say anime, it is a sabi nila hindi daw cartoon ng anime, 'di ba? However, when you say anime, it could be considered as a fictional, hindi it is created based on a comic book of a certain artist, or it is a story created by a person wherein it pertains about the drawings, and then it has stories. And some of the animes that were created by different artists are being televised, or meaning ginagawa nila itong in action na. Kasi of course, the creation of anime, it all starts with comic books, 'di ba? Dino-drawing lang 'yan, and then pag maganda yung mga feedbacks ng readers, ginagawan ito ng isang anime video na, 'di ba? So here in different anime, 'di ba? They have their own theme or music theme, meaning merong for different anime, they have their own music composed by bahala na kung sinong gusto ng artist na mag-compose sa anime niya. However, very uso yan, di ba? If you have watched different kinds of anime, alam mo na yan. Yan, some important events naman sa Japan natin. Meron yung Fuji Rock, and then Fuji Rock Festival is an annual rock festival held in Naiba Ski Resort in Niigata Prefecture, Japan. It is a 3-day event wherein music in the mountains at Japan's premier music festival. So yan, the same with them, they have their own important events na nangyayari din. Japan's biggest and best rock music, featuring more than 200 Japanese and international musicians. The annual event attracts music lovers and festival goers from across the country and around the world. Kung nga, if I'm given a chance, gusto ko rin pumunta sa ganitong event. Di ba? Remember, it is a 3-day event. However, medyo mahal lang yung registration nila. Kasi nga, these artists are not some simple artists lang. Or yung iba naman, hindi kilala, but they are very good artists. They are not famous, but they are very good. In other words, they could play the music very well, and then kadamihan ng kanilang compositions are original compared to others. So, yan. Okay?